It's the biggest crowd I've seen at a greyhound meet ever. Good luck, everyone. Slot holders, trainers, owners and fans, we're set to go. The Phoenix.
We hear Daniel Hibbins suggesting that's the biggest crowd he's seen. I've got a little bit of a feeling this year's Phoenix might even be bigger and better as we go to air recording this podcast after the heats of the Silver Chief. Massive crowd in, massive atmosphere, great night of racing, and two of the best looking roosters here that would probably better be known at this time of night, maybe dancing on a nightclub dance floor, but no, not tonight. Working hard, it's 11:15 after the last Smithy, and here we are doing what we love, the Phoenix Flight Path podcast. Welcome to you. Very, very good to see you.
I was trying really hard for us to have a beer in front of each other, and unfortunately you said you only drink lolly water. So I said, we're not doing that, we're just going without, which is disappointing because I think I deserve one after tonight.
I'm actually sweating because I've worked the hardest I reckon I've worked in a while, because Timmy Zoo, he won tonight. We'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to break down the heats of the Silver Chief and do a little bit of a preview because the draw's already out. We're going to catch up as well via Zoom. Well, I am maybe tomorrow when I put it all together with Shayne Train, the Shayne Train from WA.
Train.
Shayne Williams, the trainer of Iconic Jets, made the decision to send him across for the Silver Chief, and he might even make it just about into power rankings. That's the next little segue to power rankings. Of course, we're going to do that. And something a little bit different because straight off the top, Smithy, the news that Rinse the Lot has been withdrawn from the Phoenix due to injury. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, look, it's obviously very unfortunate. I spoke to Daryl Thomas this morning. Obviously been scratched from tonight's racing, which was unfortunate and just won't be right come the 21st of December. So he's unfortunately been pulled out. It makes me a little bit disappointed because I know how long they've been looking forward to it. He was announced in early September, and for you to kind of fall at the final hurdle 2 weeks out, it must be shattering, but Melbourne Storm will pivot. They'll find a greyhound, and there's a hell of a lot to choose from.
That's the flip side, isn't it? Obviously really disappointing for the connections, but then as one door closes, another door opens for a potential other greyhound to take the place of Rinse the Lot. And I guess that's the chatter that we'll get to in power rankings, and of course I've got the top 7 suitable greyhounds that Melbourne Storm might be able to go
Top 7?
with. Yeah, top 7. I've elaborated, I've stretched it out, and to be honest, I'm missing 2 or 3, and we're getting a lot of hate on the socials. So I thought I'd at least do 7. There's probably 3 or 4 that are still missing out. But
can your all-class make it into the list?
He didn't actually make the 7.
Didn't?
Well, I've got told he's going to sale. Is that right, or will we pivot?
No, I think he'll go to sale.
Unless there's a phone call.
If there's a phone call, we'll be dropping Sale like a hot bag of spuds, even though we love the Sale Cup. But when there's $1 million on the line, we would be dropping quickly.
Speaking of the Sale Cup, green light on Racing and Sport have just locked away. Ooh. We've signed the autograph on the sheet saying we'll be doing a heat and final edition of the sale. Yeah, a little bit of a cashy, and we're recording in the flesh for the heats as well. So that's going to be good. Not you,
not me.
I'll be down there. There wasn't enough cash in the bank to pay you to go to sale.
Fair enough.
The award rate. Run of the day. Run of the day, run of the night, whatever you want to call it. This is our chance to talk about the Silver Chief and the runners that stood out for mine. And as soon as we sat down at this lovely desk, he said to me, Jimmy, I've got one that stood out tonight. Who was it, Smithy?
Epitomised for me. He's won a feature race final here, being the Great Chase. He's made a Melbourne Cup. You and I saw him on debut and winning the Highway 31. He's been impressive in so many of his starts. I think tonight was his toughest win. I thought he was absolutely superb. He got parked 3 wide. He had to be tough, and he showed that he's turning into a really, really high-quality race dog. So, epitomised for me. I thought he was the run of the heats, even though the time probably wasn't up to some of them.
Yeah, didn't break 30, but he had to do it the hard way. And you know what Meatloaf once said? You took the words right out of my mouth. Oh, it must have been while you were kissing me. Now, I would have gone with epitomised, to be honest.
Okay.
As my favourite, but we can't be repetitive because the show would be boring if we all did the same thing.
Well, it doesn't matter what you go with because everyone's just turned off after that rendition.
I reckon more people are tuning in when they hear the Meatloaf's back. Look, I'm going to go with, there was a couple that stood out. Poor Vortex, I reckon's a serious greyhound on the up, but whether or not he's going to find that clean run to the front that he found in the first heat of the Silver Chief, I'm not too sure. I'm going to go with Deadly Avenger as the run of the night, just because of the way he had to sort of navigate box number 7, work to the lead, was clearly headed down the back by poor utility, and then he was able to really, I guess, find another gear when he looked to be under pressure. So for mine, I'm going to rate Deadly Avenger as the greyhound that stood out tonight, and there was a heap of them. Giacomo was good. I mean, Iconic Jet was outstanding. The only reason we're not showing him as a run of the night is because I want to show that replay with the Shayne Train.
Well, Deadly Avenger, I spoke to Joe Borg immediately after the race, and he called this race these sort of races are a pipe dream. I said, Joe, well, you're one step
pumped.
closer. You're one step closer for it to not be a pipe dream, but it'll be a reality. So he was definitely pumped. He was excited, and he's got a live chance in the final next week.
Surprised me a little bit. A trainer of his class that's had as many good dogs as he's had. I noticed him when I was calling the race. He won the race and he was walking back to scale, I guess you could call it. And he was throwing his arms in the air like he'd won the Melbourne Cup.
Absolutely.
Or the Phoenix.
You can see what it means. And that's the best part about racing, is seeing the emotion that these sort of races elicit and the responses that we get.
Big race preview. Even a little stinger for the big race preview that is the Silver Chief. First of the big finals coming up, the big grand finals here over the next few weeks at the Meadows. And going through the field, here's the box draw, Smithy. You can rattle it off, mate, because you're not pulling your weight over there.
No, I'm certainly not, but I can see you've got a moose over there, so it doesn't look like you've been pulling your weight either. But Giacomo goes into box number 1, Deadly Avenger in 2, Nerling in 3, Poor Vortex 4, Poor Quan 5, Iconic Jet 6, Raven Peter 7, and Epitomise drawn out in the car park in box number 8. The 2 reserves, Poor Ike and Poor Utility. So it's an intriguing box draw, Jim.
You're going to call me Drum now.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing box draw, you're right, because of, I think, the speed dogs, Iconic Jet and Epitomise have drawn out wide. I think if either of them draw in and the other speed dog draws out, they have a huge advantage. Now they've both drawn out, I think it opens the race to Deadly Avenger, to Giacomo, and Nerling's not the worst of them just to get in, tuck in, and then hit the line. I know he'd need to improve, but what did you make of the draw? And this is all about putting your pills on the line, mate. Who would you tip right now? I know we're early on.
I don't think I can ever tip away from Epitomise after the run tonight, because he didn't nail the start like we know he can, and if he does that from out wide, he should just be able to carve across. Iconic Jet in that trial just absolutely hugged the paint. Is he going to want to get across really hard from box 6? Raven Peter's a nice strong dog. We've seen him over the middle distance, so I think I'm leaning towards the 2 on the outside. I think the main play for me will be Epitomise, and then maybe just a little sanity bet on Raven Peter, because I think he's a high quality greyhound.
Mate, it's not easy to cross from the outside, but I think the pace in 6 and 8 is going to make it easier. I've just got this funny feeling this could be the moment for Joey Borg with Deadly Avenger. If the red goes out fast, Giacomo, and he can just tuck in at the first corner, he's got the form behind the big names of the sport over at Sandown Park through the Melbourne Cup Carnival. So he's proven when the pressure goes on, he can perform. And with that in mind, I'm going to go with number 2, Deadly Avenger at this stage. But by the time the race comes around next week, I might be with either Iconic Jet or Epitomise, just because of that sheer brilliance that they bring.
Well, we do know you like to send in 2 sets of tips, depending on which cashy you're rolling with.
More likely to get a winner if you send through 2 sets.
Well, that is the case, and you've worked for that many different places on cashies that I reckon you might send in 8 sets of tips, and then you're guaranteed a winner.
So then I replay the one that I got right. You can't go wrong.
Well
You're
played.
learning the tricks of the trade.
Smarter than I, Jim.
Hey, let's talk Phoenix contestants. I've been hard at work throughout Saturday afternoon because I wanted to create the top 7 suitable greyhounds for a Phoenix. Now, I know there's probably more than 7. Hector Fawley, I did hear that he might be retiring, so hence he hasn't made it into this category. Otherwise, he may well have been in there. But first up, pros and cons, Smithy. I'm thinking as if I am a Phoenix slot holder, and I feel absolutely terrible putting any cons to these greyhounds because I'm really trying to pick holes in superstar greyhounds to pick one ahead of the other. So we have to try and find negatives. But first up, Flying Zulu. Now, this greyhound is proven at this level of a Phoenix, at Group 1 level.
It's a Group 1 winner, yep.
At the Meadows, went 497, 1746, 2955 from box 1 in September, which is outstanding, can win from any draw. The negative I have, consistently pushing 5 seconds to the first mark here. I don't think he can do that on the regular. Your thoughts?
No, I think that's fair. It's been evidenced that he can't do that every single start, but his best, he's absolutely phenomenal. We saw him in the Hobart 1000 heat. He went in there blind, hadn't had a trial at the track, and he looked great, and he's going to be hard to beat in that final. It would not surprise to see him go from a Hobart 1000, where he wins it, potentially, to a Phoenix.
What about the wave of social media people that are saying Miss Envy deserves a place, and particularly after she went 28.97?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of Miss Envy, and I've told this story a few times, but on her debut run, Sandgroper night, the first trainer I saw that night when I walked in, Steve Shinners, I said, Steve, you got a winner for me. And he goes, Miss Envy, she's got plenty of ability, but every time I put her in a field, she wins by plenty, so I don't know what she'll do around other dogs. It's always a knock. Harry, who works here as well, the hospitality manager, and I backed her,
And she got beat?
She got beat. It's
no.
still to this date the only time that she's missed a place. So I promise Steve and Crystal that if she does get into the Phoenix final, I will not be backing her. So, she's an absolute star and flying.
A big chance to get in. The pros I had for her, 28.97 Sandown Park Laurels Heat win. Outstanding. Only 2 have broken the 29ers females. Whole Melbourne Cup campaign. Couldn't put a line through that, and she's the Nationals winner. Negatives. Now, this is the one thing I wanted to voice why I haven't had Miss Envy in my power rankings. No Meadows experience. I think that's such a big thing to hold her back at the moment. And she accelerates toward the inside in the early part, so she might be a little bit box dependent. And does she have the 5.0s, 495 speed to lead a Phoenix? I'm not too sure. So they were the negatives in regard to Miss Envy. Now, up next we've got Lakeview Emily. I reckon in career best form, last month has gone 29.55 at the Meadows, and she's gone 29.10 at Sandown Park. To be fair, it's the last week and a half she's done that.
They don't go much quicker.
She can win from a wide draw, 4.99 to the peg here from box 8 on the 16th of November. The negatives for Lakeview Emily. I think she'd need to be on pace first or second if she's going to win the Phoenix, and I'm just not sure if she draws an awkward box, she can handle the pressure of the boys, in particular the big dogs, really going hammer and tong to the first corner in a Phoenix.
I think that's probably a knock on nearly every dog
I agree.
that you could pick as well. So I don't think that's anything in particular against Lakeview Emily, but she has placed in multiple Group 1s. She's a very strong dog. She's good early, so she has plenty of the tools to be winning a race like this.
Blue Camaro's the next greyhound we're chatting about. $1 Million Chase winner, Melbourne Cup Series. You couldn't knock him on the way he was going, and I reckon he's up on the rise still. He's getting better and better. The cons I had for him was his first section speed. Has he got enough pace to lead at Phoenix? I don't think he does. And the other little concern that I have at the moment is he was scratched from Sandown Park on the 30th of November. So as to how much we read into that, I'm not too sure, but that's up to the Phoenix slot holders themselves to make that
Absolutely,
call.
and I'm not a trainer, so I'll never try and question things. If he's put forward, then I know Joshy Formosa will have him in good nick and ready to go, but he's just a proper tough race dog.
There's plenty of noise, plenty of atmosphere, and we're about half an hour after the last if you can hear some yelling around. That's how good the Meadows is, and the Phoenix is going to be
Even
the
better.
biggest party at the Greyhounds I reckon you could possibly go to. Sunset Fraser. Now, this is an interesting runner because he's on pace. He's going to go forward, I've got no doubt. Broke the midsection record in a Melbourne Cup heat. That is a huge tick, and he's a hard, fast accelerator when he gets moving. Now, the negatives for Sunset Fraser is he tumbled in the Melbourne Cup, so we don't know exactly where he is at the moment. He obviously has to lead to win a race like this. And the other big concern I had, and this is a huge concern, is no Meadows experience. That for me, no race experience. We don't know if he's trialled here. That is alarming for Sunset Fraser, but he's definitely got the ability.
Yeah, it's always the knock, but he's run fast times wherever he's gone, and I just cannot get that back split where he broke Fernando Bale's record out of my head. I think he's an absolute rocket, and he's going to be putting himself in the race if he does get selected.
Tim Zhu, I don't know where to start.
You are chairman and CEO of the Tim Zhu fan club.
I just love this dog. His 5.95 win at Sandown Park on Melbourne
Immense.
Cup night.
Yeah.
Showed strength, showed speed. He was the complete package. I think a real plus from him is he can come from off the speed or he can lead. And he is a Group 1 Australian Cup winner at the track from an inside draw, box number 1. Now, to find the negatives, I found it really hard to find any, but I thought maybe he would need to draw inside 4. And that's probably why his form became a little bit numerically poor because he was drawing awkwardly. And I don't think he's got genuine 5 dead speed. He's not far off it, but I think that actually could be a positive because he can slot in. Timmy Zhu, what do you think of him?
Oh, he's a proper animal. He's a proper race dog. He had the map of the century tonight, I think it's fair to say, with Grant Turo pushing up the track. But you still got to be able to run the fast times. And as you mentioned a few times in your calls, there was a little bit of wind around, so probably not super conducive to fast times. And he runs fast times wherever he goes. And
he's quick.
To be honest, boxes 4, 5 and 6, that's where the winners have come from the first 3 Phoenixes. And you never know. It's the dog's drawn around you. If he gets box 7, but there's a nice map, he could figure it out.
I reckon that's the cue for us to get out of here. They're turning the lights off at the Meadows, so that's a worry. But Iconic Jet is the last greyhound we're going to take a bit of a look at. I'm not sure he's heading Phoenix bound on his performance tonight. He was still outstanding. It was a fast trial last week. That made me think he is in Phoenix contention. He's on the rise. There's no doubt about that. They're the pros. The cons, open class experience in a Phoenix we haven't seen, obviously. And I feel like he does need an inside draw, but that's probably a a con that may come undone next week with box number 6 in the Silver Cheat, because I reckon he could win it.
I think we're saying that because we don't really know, and we've watched the trial where he just scraped the paint. It was his first look, and I said to Shayne Williams after we had a chat about the trial, and I said the time was impressive. What was even more impressive for me was the way he got around the venue. It looked like he'd been doing all his education here, raced here.
29.56 or whatever it was, unless you've been here 10 times.
Exactly.
So how do you do it?
Look, does he get picked for a Phoenix? I probably doubt it, but he's a dog that you keep an eye on. Remember the name, because moving forward, he's going to be winning some big races.
All right, let's talk power rankings. The segment that as I say, security. Actually, I sort of said to them after week 2, we can maybe cut the numbers in half.
Yep.
After week 3, they've doubled. They've
come
down.
back for us, haven't they?
I've got security everywhere now.
And a lot of people after the fact as well, Jim. We record on a Monday, and then people start potting us on a Thursday night.
How could you leave Miss Envy out after she's ran 28.97? We recorded on Monday. Give us some slack.
Obviously, no one looks at the date or time that the post has happened.
Just digging into us, and
that's
good.
I
love
it. It's good. And we deserve it. We deserve it most of the time.
To be honest, mate, I reckon it's the hardest job in greyhound racing, picking a power ranking for a Phoenix, because, well, this week I've got 13 positions. I just want to touch base, and there's probably no particular order this week. I'm just covering base. I don't want to have any frenemies or enemies in the sport. So, number 1, Explicit. He remains as number 1. Nothing's changed since last week. 2, Excavation. 3, Scalacci. He's jumped up the list to be my third selection. He's shooting up the power rankings. Mainly because I think he was unlucky in the Melbourne Cup. He nearly
nearly led, and if he'd led, then that's a different race.
Yeah, Big Energy number 4, 5 Smooth Plane, 6 Day Sees Rory. This greyhound who won the Queensland Flame was able to run down Kia Kaha, which had me in tears, but he's a star in his own right. Whether or not with that lack of Meadows experience he's going to impact in a Phoenix, I'm not too sure. Tommy Zavalis, very good trainer, though, will be no doubt getting him in for a trial if possible.
Might even try and get 2. He's pulled up well by all reports, and he's going to try and get down here, hopefully trial on Wednesday.
Yep, into Monday.
We'll see how we go into Monday, potentially. Perfect. So Tommy Savalas is going to do all the right things. Yeah. He's a star. He wins races for fun up there. He's a gun trainer, and this dog just keeps improving. So to come down to the Meadows, it should be a track that suits him. I can see why you've got him at 6.
And these are my power rankings, by the way, Smithy, just so you don't take over.
I'm just helping you, because everyone will switch off by the time you get to your 13. I think they'll get a bit too
7,
tired.
7, Tim Zoo. He should be up higher, but because there's only 2 greyhounds that haven't been selected, he has to come in at number 7. 8 is Lakeview Emily. She makes it in off her last 2 runs, and I know people, the Miss Envy fan club, are going to say, well, how do you pick her? I just like the fact she beat a full field of really good greyhounds and was able to ping to the front and run a really quick section. 9, I've gone Flying Zulu. I just love what this greyhound does. And when I went back and looked through his career of stats, I actually thought, how has he not been picked? Yeah. It sort of blows me away a little bit that Flying Zulu hasn't been picked. Sunset Frazier's my number 10. There's a little query around him, and that's where Miss Envy, I think, makes the field. Could go either way. I could have knocked Miss Envy. The only thing that I'm worried about is a lack of Meadows experience. So if she can go on and win the laurels, and then somehow would she be able to trial on the Monday? Potentially, but it's going to make it hard for her to have a genuine, I think, lead up to the Phoenix, and therefore it's going to be hard to win the Phoenix. That was just my opinion. She's a superstar. We're not doubting that. I've gone Iconic Jet, Blue Camaro, 12 and 13, either order. But my order for the power rankings, Blue Camaro, Iconic Jet, Miss Envy, Sunset Fraser, Flying Zulu, Lakeview Emily, Tim Zoo, Day Sees Rory, Smooth Plane, Big Energy, Scalacci, Excavation, Explicit. Yeah, sorry, Hector Fawley. He should be in there, but he's not, because I heard he might be retiring.
I think he's just having a few weeks off just to enjoy himself and get a few samples, so half his luck, and then he might be coming back after that. But he's obviously
might be
closer.
Feeling good for a Phoenix.
I reckon he might be nice and happy, but look, he's closer to the end of his career than he is the start. He wouldn't look out of place in a race like this, nor would probably another 7 dogs, Jim.
Yeah, we've got to draw the line somewhere.
You do have to. I don't know why you picked 13, but that's what we've rolled with. But here are my power rankings, Jim.
How many have you got?
I've got 10.
All right, that's what
I've just kept it to the 10.
Yeah.
We'll try and get the splinters out of your anus at some point. But here's mine. Explicit at number 1, no surprises there. Excavation at 2. I've got Big Energy at 3. The Greenos just know how to win a Phoenix, Jim. They've won 66% of them. Scalacci in at 4. Smooth Plane in at 5. 6 for me is Day Sees Rory, who I spoke about for the entirety of your power rankings. Sunset Fraser in at 7 for me.
I was going to say, Tommy Zavalis can come down, get get 2 trials with Dacey's Rory if he wants.
That's it. Sunset Fraser in at number 7 for me. As I said, I cannot get that back split at Sandown out of my head. And I've gone Miss Envy
She
at
deserves
8.
a place. She does.
Maybe I'm listening to the social media presence a little bit too much, but she's done everything right in her.
Sheepsmithy.
She's done. I don't know what you're going with there. She's done everything possibly right in her career. She's a Group 1 winner. She's placed in a Melbourne Cup. She'll go into the Laurels as a favourite as well. She's done everything right. She's a proper race dog, and she'll figure it out if she finds her way into the field. Lakeview Emily at 9. And Flying Zulu at 10. And to be honest, I could have kept going as well. There's absolutely no knocks on any of those that didn't get named. And you just, at this point, when you kind of trying to nut it out, there's so many dogs that you could pick, and you're going by the barest of margins, and you're trying to put yourself in the slot holders' brains, and that's not that easy when there's people like Jared Sharp involved, because you don't want to spend a minute inside that. Well,
to be honest, that's what I was leaning. I reckon TCS could be going with Sunset Fraser. That's my little gut feeling that I've got. But your 10, just repeating your 10 there, Smithy.
Explicit 1, Excavation 2, Big Energy 3, Scalacci 4, Smooth Plane 5, Dacey's Rory 6, Sunset Fraser 7, Miss Envy 8, and then Lakeview Emily and Flying Zulu.
Inside info.
Well, it's time to talk inside info ahead of the Silver Chief, and who knows, maybe a berth in this year's Phoenix. Shayne Williams, the Shayne Train from WA, has his pride and joy racing over here in Victoria, iconic jet, and I don't think he could have done too much more in his first 2 looks at the Meadows. The trial was out of this world. The win was impressive. He showed terrific speed. He's into the Silver Chief, drawn box number 6, and his trainer's on the line. For the first time on the Green Light On podcast, and not only the first time on that, Shayne Trainers, I welcome you, but I think the first time you've ever attempted Zoom, and you've bloody nailed it, mate. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, James. Only just, mate. Yeah, it was pretty good. You talked me through it pretty well, so privileged to be on your podcast, mate. You know you made it when you made the Green Light podcast.
That's it, mate. And you know you've made it when you got a headset like you've got. Where'd you score that thing from?
I do a few pods over here myself, so yeah, not my first radio, but normally not my head shown here, so only a head for radio, mate.
Well, when you're getting dogs into Group 1s like you have been, you shall get used to a little bit of harassment from the media, that's for sure. But I guess, mate, I just wanted to... Look, I've known you for a while. I wanted to get the audience to learn a little bit about the story of Shayne Williams and how you've ended up, mate, where you are right now as a greyhound trainer in WA, because you ventured through a few different facets of the sport.
Yeah, well, I probably started back driving the lure at Wentworth Park in Richmond in Sydney, and that's where I'm from originally. And got a good opportunity to go to Melbourne to work with Luke Azzopardi. He set up a kennel down there in Longwood, which was a good place, and that really only lasted about 9 months there. And I actually come for a holiday to Perth when they had the Perth Cup at the new track, the very first one. So I come here, met a few people, and really liked the place. And as things weren't working out for me in Melbourne, I come over here to give it a crack, and I basically come over to be a lure driver and a groundsman. And I worked there for 12 months and then got promoted to 2IC, in charge of all the tracks here. Well, we only have 3, so that lasted another 12 months. And then I just got a good opportunity to rent some kennels through John Carmody, the late John Carmody, the great. He was retiring, and he said, why don't you give it a go? And so I started training just a few dogs there, and it ballooned to about 10 or 15, and then now we've moved base down to Nambulla where we've got 20, and we've always had 20 in work. So swings and roundabouts, being in all the facets of the industry, but I just found my place here, James. It's a really good place to live, and I've met a lot of good friends over here, and the lifestyle's a lot more laid back than Sydney and Perth. Very hectic over there, as you would know, and just in a happy spot at the moment. And just breed 1 or 2 litters a year and just get a handful of dogs off some friends, and just battle away, mate.
Well, mate, it's an extraordinary story. I love the fact that you've just bitten the bullet and said, I'm going to give WA a go, because a lot of people say, oh, look, I'd love to move interstate, but actually don't go and do it. But you mentioned the lifestyle. Like, there's the 3 tracks over there. You're always getting better weather. Would you recommend for more, I guess, eastern state trainers to bite the bullet and have a crack at training in WA, because the prize money's awesome and the racing's great?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't, because they'd be taking prize money off me. But it's something you got to. I obviously single, and I have a lot of family in Sydney, but they're not into the racing. So but yeah, the prize money is really good, especially if you have a WA bred dog. That's where you get the bonuses and that. The bonuses are really good here in the greyhounds, the breeding scheme and that. So so it's a good lifestyle. And like only 3 tracks, it hurts a little bit. Really, only 2 in summer because Northam is out of play. It's too hot up there. So so it's a bit of a Mandurah and Kennington, it gets a bit monotonous for the dogs, but it is what it is. And like I said, mate, I'm pretty happy over here. So. Yeah, things are going good.
Well, I guess, mate, if they're going well enough, you can always send them interstate like you have with this boy, Iconic Jet. Let's have a chat about him. This is the Phoenix flight path where we count down to the Phoenix. And I guess he's sort of come into the conversation as potentially a Phoenix contender. Before we get to that, obviously, on the back of that fast trial, this boy, Iconic Jet, when did he tell you as a connection that he could be something special like he's looking like he is?
Yeah, well, he broke in really good, and Steve Bull breaks my dogs in from Ballarat over there, and Steve's not one that talk dogs up or he just, yes, this is good, yes, this is no good, blah, blah, blah. But he did say to me that this fella's exceptional, and when them words came out of his mouth, that got me a little bit excited. But, you just got to wait and see when you get him home and stuff. And pretty much from day one, he was running times that I knew he was going to be a very good dog. And, he's matured a bit along the way. He's run quick times. I think when we went to Adelaide and come home from Adelaide, that sort of made him. And then obviously when we sent him to Melbourne, I didn't think he'd run that quick, James, to be honest. That blew me away. But that was him telling me that he's ready to step up to the big leagues now. So, and he just turned 2 last week. So, so from day one he's been fast, but it's just been sort of looking after him a bit along the way as well. I've taken all the easy grades for him, and he's been $1.10 sometimes that he's won just to get his confidence up. And he's been a fast dog from the start, so it's been really exciting.
You mentioned there that you sent him to Adelaide or went to Adelaide to have a crack at a race over there, and it sort of made the dog. Can you elaborate on what you mean by made the dog? We hear a lot of trainers say that with young dogs they like to travel interstate because it can mature them, turn them into a better dog. And is that sort of along the lines of your decision to send them interstate or race interstate at an early age?
Yeah, well, he's a bit quirky, the dog. He's got a few little quirks, so I actually went to Adelaide with him. But when I was there, I just seen the change in the dog. He'd normally be a bit of a bad kennel dog and play up and that, but he just relaxed so well there. He was in a good environment. I stayed with Nicole Price, and she had a great setup. And even when I come home, I just could see him up on his toes, and he's thinking he's the kingpin of the kennel, which he is. But just when he come home, I just knew. And then we won Mandurah being in play with the bend start doesn't sort of suit him. He's got that good mustache you've seen last night. And the bend start at Mandurah sometimes when he draw the middle doesn't allow him to do that. And with Kennington being closed and only just open now, I just thought to get him away off the bend start and to race at the Meadows. And obviously, like I said, I really didn't think he'd go that good first look. And then obviously backed that up last night with a good win. So, I might leave him there for a little bit. I've got to talk to Brendan, but just with Kennington opening, I just want to see it go around and, with no dramas for 2 or 3 weeks before I sort of race my dogs there. But I do want to go to Sydney for the Derby in January, so that's probably his next target. But, as far as coming home, I'm not sure yet what we're going to do with him.
How do you make the decision for the Silver Chief, mate? Because he comes out, wins a Group 3 at Mandurah, and I think it's only 7 days between that victory and when he has the trial at the Meadows. Was it always the plan to send him over for the Silver Chief? And as you said, you must have just been blown away with a 29.5 first look at the Meadows. It's out of this world, really.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough to have Brendan and Robbie there. I learn a lot from Robbie, and Brendan's been a very close mate of mine for a long time, so I know when they go there, they get looked after, and you can trust them to do what you ask them to do. But they do what they do anyway. But I just thought, like I said, with Kennington being shut and the Mandurah at 488 was really his only option, so I didn't want to race him at Mandurah. So we it was either there or Brisbane, and I just thought Melbourne might have been a better opportunity. And like I said, he's handled the place so well. Like the first trial he had, he railed so well. Like you thought he'd been around there 100 times, but that was the most impressive part. But it's also special as well because we bred him, and he's the first out of the first litter out of our former good bitch Rip in Memphis. So that's a good feeling as well.
Always nice, mate, if it's an internal breed that you've been able to produce and then have a dog like this boy. Did he? I know he surprised you with the first up trial because I don't recall too many greyhounds, if any, running 29.5s at their first look at the Meadows, but even his win last night, you must have been so proud of him because the pace he showed through the first few marks, he got a little tired, but they were running into a double headwind, so a headwind up the straight the first time, a headwind on the way home, which I think made it a real testing 5.25, especially for his first up race here in Victoria. You must have just been so thrilled that he was able to break up a Group 1 heat field the way that he did.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that until I spoke to Brendan this morning because obviously he lost a bit in his run-home time from the trial. And but the 17.58 that's where he does it. I mean, over here, I think he broke Crumble Manelli's back split record at Northam. That was when he was humming. He won the Sandgroper last year. He went up to Northam for the Derby up there, and that's his real asset. That middle split. He's okay to begin, but then when he hits the ground, he just takes off like a rocket, and then he goes real quick through the turn, and as you see, up the back split. So he's going to need to do that Saturday night to pinch a break on him. It's a red-hot field, but look, he's in the right hands, and he's pulled up well, so we're just hoping box 6 is yuck, but and see what happens.
What do you make of the draw, mate? Because he has got blinding speed. You said the middle draws don't suit him at Mandurah, but the Meadows, you've got, 100 metres to the first corner, and he has got a breathtaking turn of foot. Are you confident that he can burn across and lead?
Yeah, he's just got to get the first couple of steps right. He actually probably didn't on Saturday night. He can come out with them. It's just he needs a little bit, 2 steps to get going, and then his turn of foot's blistering. But I did have a little look last night. I don't know my Melbourne form like I used to, but I thought the dog in 5, he was a bit of a slow to begin on Saturday and cut the fence hard. And I'm not sure, Raven Peter, I think Brennan said he comes out every now and then, so it's not the worst draw on paper, but obviously you like him drawn near the rail. But yeah, he's just going to have to just get the start right and then just get clean air, and you watch him zoom pretty much like he did last night, but just probably needs to come out a little bit better.
Third run at the Meadows, mate. He should be primed and ready to put in a massive performance in the Group 1, so we wish you well there. What's the dream for you, mate? As you said, you've sort of ventured through different facets of the sport as a lure driver and working for kennels and now training them yourself. Do you have a dream as to what you'd like to achieve as a greyhound trainer in the industry?
Yeah, well, I just want to win a Group 1. I play golf with Paulie Stewart and Jamie Marsh and Michael Johnson, and they've all won Group 1, so they keep jibbing me about not being in their club, so I'd love to just win a Group 1. And, Silver Chief, it might not be a lot of money, but it's still a good feature race to win the Group 1 race. The honour roll's outstanding there, so the money's irrelevant for me. Just the Group 1 to be named would be great, and then, come April time, that dog, he'd be 2.5 then, so I think a really good race for him would be the Sandgroper, on his home track around Kennington. I think, he'd be really hard to beat in a race like that. But, these slot races, they've been great. I went to the Everest this year for the first time, and I've done a Phoenix as well, and they're actually an event. They're more than a ground race, they're an event, so they'd be really good to be a part of. So, any race like that would be great, James.
Mate, I'd love to be a fly on the wall the day you wander into the golf course with that massive list of Group 1 winning trainers and wander in as a Group 1 winning trainer yourself. It'd be awesome.
I'd be strutting, not walking.
No, I couldn't blame you. Mate, you mentioned the Phoenix. This boy, Iconic Jet, at this stage, maybe a little bit of a pipe dream to make it into the Phoenix. But what would you do if you get a call? I know we had Rinse the Lot withdrawn this week. There's 2 slots available, and the way he trialled, the way he went last night, do you think there's a chance that he could get the late call up into the Phoenix, and would you accept that chance with a young dog like him?
Yeah, I've actually had a couple of calls the last couple of days, James, and they basically said if he could run up to his trial, then he'd probably get selected, but obviously he didn't do that last night. So at the end of the day, it's not a bad thing, He's only a young dog, and, if he was in the Phoenix up against dogs like Explicit and dogs like that, and he drew box 6, would probably be disastrous for him. So, you never know. He could be there again this time next year. But like I said, the Sandgroper will be right up his alley come April. If anyone out there wants to have a look at him, I've already had a couple of calls for that as well. But, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before now and then, James, as well. So, I just want to do the right thing by the dog, which is what we've done so far, and just kept him in his own age classic races. And he's delivering us in spades, in what he's doing. So very, very happy and proud of him.
Mate, I think the Sandgroper, I reckon it's got his name etched beside that as a real genuine contender. And I tell you now, if I was a slot holder, I'd be really having a good think about this Star Iconic Jet on his home deck once Cannington's back up and going. He will be mighty hard to beat. Just before we let you go, mate, I know you mentioned golf. You like to have a whack of golf, but on our album artwork for this episode, we've actually got a photo of you with the UFC belt. Now, is that you involved in the UFC or just being a fan of the UFC?
No, that was, I seen that last night, Corey Smith, some of his best work. But we went to Ireland last year for the derby, the coursing derby, with a few trainers over there, Robbie and George Daly, and we went to Conor McGregor's pub, Black Forge it was called, and there was a belt there, and a few of us just got a photo with the belt around Matt Lanigan and Gerald Lanigan and a few other imbeciles. So, yeah, that was just a bit of fun there, but no, I couldn't fight to save myself, James. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Now, that trip's coming up again soon in 6 weeks, so you might have to pencil yourself in for next year, mate.
Yeah, I reckon it'd be one hell of a trip, that's for sure, especially with the list of names you mentioned. As we let you go, mate, why the nickname the Shayne Train?
Peter O'Neill, the great man, used to drive the lure next door to him at Northam, and obviously he's calling the races, and he was the first one I told I'm going to sort of get back into training, and he said, I'm going to have to come up with a name for you. So anyway, it took me about 6 or 7 starts to win a race over here, and then he just produced it. He's one for the Shayne Train, so it's stuck, and I've been called plenty worse, James, so I'll cop the train. It's not too bad.
Take that. Have you seen a man more passionate than the great Pete O'Neill?
Nah, never in my life. He's he's a great ambassador for our sport over here, and very passionate, and things he does for our sport over here doesn't go unnoticed, that's for sure.
Would you be able to just pretend that you're popping Iconic Jet into the boxes for the Silver Chief and give us a bit of Pete O'Neill to end the show?
Yeah, all right, we'll do it. Last of them locked away. Iconic Jet in box 2 is loaded away by the Shayne Train. He picks up his lead. He's content he can do no more. Green light on.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.